Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and GoFundMe link in the info box below the video. Also, before we get to GoFundMe, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of the people who support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out first of all to More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. As I said at the top of this intro, I'm also currently running a GoFundMe campaign, which is absolutely heartbreaking to announce, as one of my speakers blew up, which isn't exactly what you need. But there we go. They're very, very good speakers, and I've had them for over 20 years now, and I bought them originally when they first designed these. They're a pair of B&W Nautilus 804s, and as I say, I've had them since 1999, and they've been faultless and superb ever since. Unfortunately, today I was running a frequency response through them, which is something I've done thousands of times in the past, and they tested fine. I did another frequency response, and suddenly I noticed that they didn't test fine at all. They'd blown. So at least the tweeter is definitely blown, perhaps the mid-range, although I can't be certain of that. Hopefully it's not the crossover. I don't know. There could be a whole number of reasons why something's not working, but I've gone inside them, checked the connections, which are all fine. But yeah, it certainly seems that at least one, possibly two drive units has blown in my very expensive now speakers. So I got these for about £800 when I was a dealer back in 1999. And obviously even then that was a hell of a lot of money for me. Went into credit card debt to get them. And, that was a huge amount of money. And the retail was about £2,500 when they very first released them as a loss leader, and then very quickly went up to about £3,000, as I say, back in the late 90s. But yeah, so they've been doing service ever since, and certainly been every bit of the Flat Earth Debate monitoring system. But yeah, well, one of them's gone bang, and that's just unfortunate. So I thought I'll just swap around some of the other tweeters, as I've got 5 speakers and a subwoofer. I thought, well, I've got 5 tweeters, I'll just swap one. And I had a look inside, having worked on them and serviced them 20 years ago, to see if I could fix them myself. And I very quickly found that there was something that I couldn't remember how to do, so I looked up and checked on the internet how to dismantle them, and I didn't have any joy. They only had later models, so I contacted the manufacturer, and they said, once you order a tweeter, we'll send you a set of instructions on how to specifically dismantle the tweeter on that model, or more specifically remove the tube off the back of the tweeter. It looks like it's glued. He couldn't tell me off the top of his head. There we go. It's just one in a whole list of things. I've had to... I say they've never been replaced. They have actually had a replacement mid-range once before. Just one of those things. So that has been done, and I am familiar with doing that, but certainly not the tweeter. That's the original one. Again, that's going to need replacing also. Like I say, I don't know about the crossover. I haven't got in that far to check that. But there's a massive target for that reason. So the current replacement, although I paid peanuts for them, is about 10 grand. So they've been making these now for a long time, and obviously as prices go up and the finish gets a bit more shiny, and they tell you in the marketing that they're better than the ones before, they've slowly edged their way up to about 10 grand for a really nice finished pair, and maybe £9,000 or £8,000 for a fairly plain looking set. So they're horrendously expensive speakers, definitely worth repairing. And as has always been the past way of things, I can't afford to fix the stuff I've got, and as I use it to run the show, all I've ever been able to do in the past when I've had a disaster like this is to put my hand out and say, I can't afford to do this, please help me, and just not be ashamed of it, just own it. As is the case, I always want to be able to do this stuff with money I get from Patreon, and typically I do quite a lot of maintenance and such with the money I get from my patrons. Thank you very much indeed to you on Patreon. Another shout out to you. I know I've just shouted you out and do daily. But yeah, in this case, the first couple of months of the year are always absolutely horrendous. And in terms of YouTube income, I should add that, preface it. And therefore, it's come at the worst possible time. I've got the least amount of money coming in from YouTube. Again, as is in the past, I've just got to own this stuff and say, yeah, it's a fairly mundane thing. So a lot of people who are not familiar with the show or care will come and go, why should I help you fix a speaker? And the only reason is because I can't afford to fix it and I use it to run the show with. So that's my reason, and there's my target. Hopefully, having looked at the tweeter on its own on eBay, I was like, I'll just buy a cheap one on eBay. Yeah, I think it was about $180 just for the diaphragm of the tweet. I was like, woohoo! Okay, this isn't like back in the day when I was selling this stuff then. It's obviously a lot more expensive now. But as I said, I'm not going to throw 10 grand at a new replacement pair or downgrade them when I can definitely fix them for a seemingly reasonable amount of money, hopefully. If I can get just this bit fixed. This isn't needing fixing, and the crossover, which is the bit in the back that you connect the terminals to, it's got a whole load of resistors and such in the signal path. Hopefully that's not damaged either, and then hopefully it'll cost a couple of £100, in which case I'll just absorb whatever extra I get from the £1,000 total, because I've got such a massive deficit, because I know the last couple of months have been terrible, which I do very rarely moan about how poor I am on YouTube, but for the fact that when I need a help in hand, I'll just put it out there and say, here you go, there's my GoFundMe campaign. So there is a link in the live stream chat for today's live show, although if you're watching this now, it'll be in the pre-show, so that kind of makes no sense. I'll put it in the show notes, or whatever you call it, information box below the video, and when this comes out for the public, I'll stick it in the live stream, or whatever you call it, premiering stream chat, so you can check it out. It'll undoubtedly run for a while. I don't know how much it'll cost, first and foremost. I've only just got in touch with the manufacturer. I spoke to somebody who was very nice, and he put me in touch with the parts manufacturer of B&W, which was in a North American distribution centre, so I assume they've gone a lot more global than they were when I used to work selling their stuff, and as a rep when I used to work with them, because I used to deal with them when I sold amplifiers as a manufacturer. So I know them reasonably well, but obviously they've expanded out, hence my service inquiry for a mere tweeter at the very least is going to go to some North American company. Who'll presumably farm it out and charge me a small fortune for any parts that I may need, hence my need for help. So that's enough boring, tedious detail about my GoFundMe, which I'm sure you're all very excited about. There is a little bit more blurb, just basically repeating exactly what I've said here in terms of my journey to actually wanting to get these damn things fixed, reliable though they have been for the last 22, 23 years, or however long I've had them. So there we go. I think I'll actually share out this link now, maybe pop the recording on pause just for a moment while I farm out this link so there's no horrendous pauses. Check. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Howdy there.
Hello.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
You know what pyrolytic graphite is?
I can make a guess based on the structure of the word. I mean, no, it's not a familiar word. Why'd you ask?
Well, this is a cool little, I'm going to say experiment, but test. If you take pyrolytic graphite over a neodymium magnet, get a magnifying glass, go outside and use the sun, you can repel that pyrolytic graphite across that magnet.
Okay.
What up, Nathan?
Cool.
Hey, Tent.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Nathan.
Morning.
Hey.
Hey, Ryan. Good to have you back, by the way, Righteous, if you can hear us. It's been a nightmare without you.
What, really? Hey, Nathan.
Yeah, I could pay attention to what's going on in Discord. My life's sweet
Yeah, I
in
noticed
your
there
ear.
was a big mishap, and it was actually my fault. Like, there was no limit on the room. People could unmute themselves, and I was like, whoa. I just noticed it, the day before I noticed it.
I don't know
before
what you mean. I'm
started.
just talking about people coming in and me having to say hello to them or take them off mute when they first get into the live stream room. Stuff that typically I don't think about because you're doing it on my behalf. Thankless task that it is.
Right. Well, I guess we got to train others to be able to do what I do, because I'm a little bit busier nowadays. So,
No, I totally
but
understand.
I gotta make it in
I
a way so I
typically
can like
would.
I
My
I
bad.
gotta make it in a way so I can contact you, or you can contact me like if there's ever anything that you need. So then that way I can handle things behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would
So
typically do it because I'm usually on the G plus. Then if he says, "Hey, what's going on?" Typically, I can do that. But well, you know,
It seems
Yeah,
like I've been gone for a
I
while.
mean, there's nothing I can't handle. It's not that it's something I need. I mean, the only time I'd have a requirement for a need is if it stopped working or broke. Like with my speakers, I've got a GoFundMe campaign going because of something breaking. Hence, I need help. So like, this is broken. Help me. But unless it's broken, typically I can cope. But it is nice to have you here. Do you know what I mean?
right. Well, do you know how to get in touch with me on Discord? Do you know how to private message me on Discord?
No,
No?
no.
Here, you know what? I'll message you and I'll just say test, right? And then that way, find my name on this list where the DM list is, and then just message me whenever you need something or something is required, and I'll get on it.
Okay. So somewhere in
Okay?
Discord, I've got a message from you. Should I ever need help, I'll wander into the woods of confusion that is Discord, find your message, and send one to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so where you find that message, that's where you know where you can like find me to contact me personally.
He ain't
Okay?
doing it.
Oh, is that what that means, Neil?
That's correct, Righteous.
Okay. Well, I haven't been keeping up with the flat Earth debate, so I haven't been keeping up with Nathan's sense of
What,
humor
what have you been
to
keeping up with?
detect that as fast as you. What's that?
What have you been keeping up with?
I've been reading
Like,
God's word more nowadays.
Ryan, can you mute? Thank you.
Can we have some mic discipline here, please? You ever listen to the show back when people are not on mute? Come on now.
What, you mean you?
You were there. I don't sit there blowing my nose and hawking.
No, but you are
yeah,
letting the air out of the
everyone's sick
dome.
again.
Yeah, I heard that the other day. What was going on? I don't know where that sound was coming from.
Probably you.
Every,
Well, I'm on a work site. I'm on a job
everyone,
site, so
Go ahead,
sorry.
Eli.
everyone's sick. Well, okay, no, a lot of people are sick right now. Like specifically right now. I mean, there's probably someone sick all the time, but you know, I came down with a little bit of the sniffles, and so did pretty much the rest of the house. And my daughter from Georgia calls because I live in New York, and she's like, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" She's like, "Not so good. I got a little bit of a cold." And I was like, "Wow, yeah." It's because the weather, the fluctuation was really great over the last few days.
Really, I feel so terrible for you.
Come on, Nathan. There's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, if I sneeze, I'm in agony at the moment.
You dog. So who do we have in Discord today? Let's say hi.
Hey, Devin.
Hey,
Then if they're all
Righteous.
off mute, don't know how well Righteous is. Bloody Righteous. He never does his job.
He comes on
Wait,
one day, you
I
praise
got
him, now you bring him down.
I got other people DMing me for other things too.
You're not the only one, Nathan. Stand in line.
Yeah. All right. One guy was on mute. The other ones seem to be okay, and another one's trying to get in. I'm trying to help him out how to get in.
No, I see. Maybe a first timer. So it would seem like.
Well-
Go on, Righteous.
Oh, I was just gonna say, no, he's not a first timer, but he's having some technical issues that
Oh, I
I know
got
how
you,
to
okay.
handle at the moment. But what were you gonna say?
No, I was going to say to Discord as well as the panel here. Seems like the ballers don't know what a plane is or a right angle.
Just tent throwing shade, that's all.
No, I'm serious. I'm trying to spur a conversation here because it's essential to celestial navigation, a plane and a right angle triangle. I mean, there's a picture of it right now with a guy showing it with a maypole on your screen. So, when you start reading about it and you see these right angle triangles, then they deny that there are any usage of right angle triangles when there's video and pictures and commentary of how it's needed. It's like Twilight Zone with these people. Oh, don't mention 90 either. Anyone Discord gonna want to have a back and forth on this? Either side of the argument is fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's tough,
Yeah.
guys. I don't know your name. Are you new?
No, I'm not new.
I'm sorry, I
Just
did
the
this to
name
them.
was changed.
All right.
I have no power to change it back.
Okay. Hey,
Wow,
John,
so
I
much
read
for-
your comment in one of the chats that I thought was hysterical. I think it was you. It might have been someone else now. I can't remember. When you were talking about somebody basically getting all snippy and irate with you on how you didn't understand how flat his globe was, or something like that. No sound from you, John. Mic's off, but
He's
I'm not
probably-
hearing anything. I reconnected just as he joined. Dropped.
He's going to rejoin probably. Well, isn't that interesting, though? We've run across that. Now, John's going to share his story of running across it, that every time they have to talk, they have to make their curve flat. Wasn't it the opposite way before?
I don't know. I've been telling my commenters in the chat, whatever you call it, the comment section, you need a flat plane. If you're going to be measuring an elevation angle, like the one on screen right now, that needs a flat plane. It's two straight lines meeting at a vertex.
Yeah, I know. But wasn't it a while, not too long ago, they were saying a curved line is straight. Now they're saying in a different way because of the celestial navigation. They're not referencing that arc as the curved line now. They're actually wanting a straight line now, it seems like. I don't know if I'm reading into it or, first they would say the arc is a straight line, and then on their presupposed globe, that is. And then now they're saying it's just a straight line. Or am I missing something?
No, you've got it spot on. They relinquished their straight lines, telling us, what do you think, it's no Atmo day? We wouldn't have a straight line ever. If you put your hand in front of your face, it's not really in front of your face. It's atmospheric refraction. Sphere-shaped air bends the light, standard rate, always. So never a straight line to anything ever. Okay, now let's start measuring some angles. You know what I just said about never a straight line as a globe believer? Let's just pop that on the shelf for a minute, because now, always a straight line. Tangent to everything always. Really? How so?
That's what viruses don't understand.
But John will be the first to point out that tangent to everything always is just this boat. The straight line used to make the angle is actually what you're navigating and measuring. It's not the curved surface that your fundamentalist religious sphere believer thinks he's got. It's a flat surface that they're measuring out and claiming is adjacent to their sphere that they're not using and measuring. So what you're left with, if it's not the sphere that they claim is adjacent to the flat baseline they are measuring, what you got? You got a flat baseline, and that's the ground with the ground positions, geographical positions below them. So the straight line is the only bit that represents reality in this diagram, because the sphere bit ain't being used. It can't be. Has to be a straight line. You can only get an elevation angle from a flat plane. So what do? It's really easy to get a straight line tangent on a globe. Really? Is it? That's fascinating. Shouldn't you be arguing for how easy it is to measure and navigate on a curve, though, rather than telling us how easy it is to draw out a massive flat plane and then just claim there's a great big sphere, Dingleberry Earth, beneath that great big flat plane that you're actually measuring and navigating on? No, they'll scream till they're blue in the face about how easy it is to get a flat plane from a sphere. It's nuts. That's where we're at. You're right, 10th.
I'm going to say one of the things that they do too when they're denying how flat the Earth is they ignore what surveyors say they actually measure, which is a flat plane that they call a tangent plane, not because it sits on a plate, but because the horizon's a tangent point we'd be on. So they don't want to even think about that.
You're still breaking up, John. It was 90%, 80% audible.
Well, I'll continue till he gets here on the subject. So isn't a tangent a straight line?
Yes.
Okay, so when you use a plumb bob or a bubble sextant, it's at your eye line because it's off the vertical. But it's still a right angle triangle because you have to have that baseline at your eye line. You got to have that horizontal. You're not using, per se, the Earth here. You're using a distance above the Earth. If you're a 6-foot man, then wherever your eyes are. If you're a 5-foot man, wherever your eyes are. But the minute you take that sextant, the marine sextant, without the bubble feature, and you say, I am going to sight the horizon where the sky seems to meet the Earth, and I'm going to do the same thing so I could get the same results, you have to do dip correction, which is what? Which is the angle between your eyes and the horizon and a baseline called the ocean surface. And that's why dip is always subtractive. And so you must bring down that height to the surface of the water as if your eyes were on the water itself. And now, you are not departing in any way, shape, or form from the processes of celestial navigation. You are now parallel with the rational horizon, which is their equatorial plane, the made-up one, of course, where everything emanates from in their model. You are parallel with their sensible horizon, which is from a plumb bob or a bubble sextant, which is at the eye line. You have your baseline. And when you use the Earth itself, you have to do dip so that you can have the same result. So guess what? That's parallel too. So all three are parallel planes. Where's the curve in any of this?
Well, everything they're saying now is apologetics for not having a curve.
Well, they can't have a curve if they're going to do celestial navigation. That's why it's a plane, whether you do it with a plumb bob or a bubble sextant, it's your eye line, the plane, the baseline. Or if you say we're getting it from the center, which is the equatorial plane, which is called the rational horizon, because they've got so many horizons. And then when you do dip correction, you're not going away from the same methodology. You're just saying, oh, how many feet am I above the ocean surface? I got to get down to the ocean surface so that could be a plane. They're all parallel.
Well, maybe not worse than that, but on top of that, whenever they say that, the teeter-tottering boat view, the the plane they put on top of their ball and say the tangent point's their feet, that's throwing it up in the face of every surveyor that's ever measured the ground, saying that you're not measuring the ground, you're measuring an arbitrary point above the ground.
The right angle triangle in that picture with the boats teeter-tottering on the globe is the death of them. Because they're saying that's achieved from the center of the earth. They bring it up on top and it becomes the death of them, because you can't do that from a curved surface. You can only do that from a baseline that's flat, straight, 180. You need 180.
Well, no, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that they have two contradictory positions. One, they want to put a tangent at your feet, and then the other one, they want to put a tangent at the horizon. And
I'm commenting on that. The
right,
tangent at your, I'm sorry.
What I was going to say though is both of those contradictory positions are wrong, because, like you said, you can't get an angle from a curved baseline.
Well, let me add to what I'm saying then. If they want to put the tangent at their feet, they're still assuming they live on a sphere and that one point is that part. But that's not what's happening when they use a bubble section. They're putting a tangent at their eye line. They're not even at their feet. It's an eye line horizon. It's a plane. It makes a right angle triangle like that boat one with the teeter-totter. So just put that at the eye line of the observer. The other place they want that is at the center of the earth, where they cut the sphere in two and they have the equatorial plane. Again, a flat surface much needed for a right angle triangle. The third method is to actually sight the horizon with the horizon mirror with the sextant, but you must subtract dip, which is your eye line above the surface of the water, in order to get that 180 right angle triangle to work using the actual earth itself. All three are parallel to one another, as shown in the pictures of the airplane in the sky, the ship on top of the earth, and the center of the earth where they get the third one. They all have to work the same way. You need a right angle triangle at all three of those locations, whether real or not real. Yeah, subtract from 90. What's a 90?
Yeah, they'll start when you get into the actual ground measurements, they'll start telling you about how flat their globe is.
Yes, isn't that sweet?
They'll start telling you, well, there's not that much curvature at all, not much at all. Like, and then they'll start like demanding you give them calculations of their claim. Like, you do the math, you tell me how much curve we should see. Like, what? Are you insane?
You remember when I held Virus to that question when he says you just use a plumb bob, it's at your eye line? I said, is that straight? And how far is that straight? Is that straight forever? He said, yeah, straight forever. Okay. Well, then when you do dip correction and adjust, that's straight too, because they must be parallel. That means the Earth's surface is the same way.
Well, what they're trying to do is invoke the tangent. That's like their obsession, like that they need that tangent. And if they got to put it below their feet and say that's the tangent point, they'll do that. Even though it was debunked by the Black Swan, there is no tangent to the horizon. And then they say that they're bringing the horizon to their feet with dip correction. But you're not bringing a non-geometric horizon to your feet to claim geometry with that. That's not happening.
Well, there's two ways to look at that. They also say the dip is the difference between the sensible horizon, your right angle triangle at your eye line with the plumb bob or the bubble section, and the dip is the difference between that and the apparent horizon. So once you make the correction, it works the same. Okay, what is the dip correction? It's a subtractive figure. So if you're telling me the difference between the sensible horizon and the sextant being used with the actual horizon, that elevation of your eye above sea level is the dip. That difference is the dip. And then you subtracted, what did you just do? You just made it parallel with the sensible horizon. So that means the Earth has to have that same plane, just like your imaginary equatorial plane. Isn't that clear enough? Where'd everybody go?
It's clear enough for me, Doc.
Man,
Clear enough for me.
you can't have it where it's working straight from your eye line, straight from your made-up center of the Earth, but bent on the surface. You can't have it that way. They all have to be parallel, and they are. In their models even say they are. But we know the one at the center doesn't work, because then you would have to have an arc, and you can't get a right angle triangle or an elevation angle working off an arc. So it's over for them.
Well, we told them what the dip correction was for. It was to put you at the true horizon that was at your feet in a straight line out. But then they're trying to use that for Earth curvature.
Actually, celestial navigation told them that. We just read how it's done. We just read how it's done. Now they're saying we're telling them that. We're not telling them nothing. That's what it's in the books.
Right. But the dip correction, right? They always, well, the dip correction's for the curvature. No, it's to put you at sea level under the boat, right? Where the boat and the water meet. So you have a straight line out. That's called the true horizon.
Here, let me read something here. Horizon. The sensible horizon is a plane conceived to touch the Earth at the point where the observer is situated and meeting the celestial sphere in a circle. But when the observer is elevated above the Earth's surface, the limit of his view is called the visible or apparent horizon. And the angle between the visible and the sensible horizons is the dip. A great circle of the sphere passing through the center of the Earth and parallel with the sensible horizon is called the rational horizon. The horizon is one of the most useful circles in astronomy. For to this circle, which is the only apparent one, almost all celestial motions are referred. It is the common termination of day and night, and it marks out the times of the rising and setting of the sun and stars. They're so screwed.
Horizontal plane. You know what horizon means?
Say that again?
Horizontal level. Flat plane.
Well, that's what it is. That's what they're saying it is, because you got to get a 90 from it. It's a right angle triangle. How do you get that from a curved surface?
Another contradictory in terms is what it is.
Exactly. But the admonition of how it works all three ways, and all three need a flat baseline.
Well, the hardest part for them is if I'm looking south and I'm going south, and say somebody in Australia is coming north, we're both using the same stars in between us to go different directions. Stars that we're both not supposed to be able to see.
Yeah, but in their head, one's coming up and one's going down antipodal. So in their head, they think they're on the globe when there's no such thing.
Right, but they failed to see from Australia to say like Texas, the angle on that star, the distance of that star. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense for both of us on a globe to be able to use that same star and get accurate anything.
Well,
Right.
what they fail to
Diverging
realize is they're
center.
mocking. What they fail to realize is they're mocking. I keep on telling them they're mocking. They say you can see both star systems. Let's call it star systems for lack of a better word. And they can't understand that if you're on the bottom side, let's say Antarctica, for their understanding, and Arctic, for their understanding, how can you see it? And I tell them, let's say you're on a carousel. If you're underneath the carousel, can you see the top of the carousel? They still don't get it. And they're mocking them because they say you can see both. They're mocking them the hell out of them because they can't understand. They don't see that point that you should not be able to see the top of the carousel when you're underneath. How can you do that? And they're mocking them because you can see it because you're on a flat plane. They still don't get that, but you have to go through that reason. Sometimes you can get to them, but you should not be able to do that unless you're on a flat plane.
Well, they redefine zenith. Zenith is the point of the heaven which is directly above you, vertical too. And you can't have celestial navigation work or angles work with diverging zeniths. It's over right there. You need a 90.
Well, I'll tell you what, when it gets to that point, they'll start telling you about how flat their globe is.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, and it becomes apologetics for how flat their globe is. Like, you wouldn't expect to see curvature. It's flat enough. You can't measure that much curve. It comes to things like that where you're like, you're out of your mind. You completely lost it.
Yeah, it's the size of the curve. If when it's small, it really doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter the size of a curve. If it is an angle, a curve isn't. If you're trying to measure an angle, a curve doesn't work.
And John, the sextant is an angle measuring what? Yeah, so they better get another one because the sextant surely has not been giving them what they want for over 5 centuries.
Well, I had a globe believer yesterday deny Eratosthenes. Like, he said that he wasn't measuring an angle to the sun. He was just measuring an angle between a stick, a shadow. That's it. I was like, man, you should write a paper. I'm sure all the other globe believers would love to know how Eratosthenes didn't measure an angle to the sun.
So the sun casting the shadow off the stick.
So regardless, he's still measuring an angle though, right? It doesn't matter what angle it is. You can't get that on a sphere surface.
Oh, he was saying that it was, when I asked him, like, how much curve is there? What you're claiming? Or, no, I said, you can't get an angle from a curved surface. And he said, you can if it's a really small curve. And then he started asking me about the math of 1 meter of curvature. And I'm not doing math for him. I'm not his monkey, And I'm like, I'm not answering that. I asked you a qualitative question, and you're asking me a quantitative question that has nothing to do with it.
I hate a repeater.
Al-Biruni took the angle measurement of the mountain from a flat earth before he went on top. What was that distance, I wonder? And what does it matter when an angle is impossible with a curved surface?
Doesn't matter. Exactly. What you want to argue, how minimal your curve is now? You're going to try and obfuscate away from how inconsequential your curve is when measuring an angle that requires it's flat. You're just justifying away your curvature. Realise what's happening when they concede. That's what they're doing. They're conceding.
Great. The Black Swan took care of that too, by the way. 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So When it's past that limitation, then everything you've said is wrong. Your radius is wrong. There is no curvature. You've been hoodwinked from the beginning.
What's with the 2 times? What's with the 2 times? Something going wrong? Something going wrong?
Don't know who is causing that feedback.
Oh, I smoke too much.
No, there was just feedback.
The Russians. No, it's not. It's the Russians.
The Russians are coming. Did you ever see that old movie?
Technically, it's my fault no matter what. If there's ever feedback, it's the producer's fault. Always. Because I'm watching the lines. They're my lines. I should know what they're doing. They shouldn't be feeding back. If they are, it's my fault. Unless someone's literally
What's
playing...
wrong with you?
Well, unless somebody is literally locally, directly playing a speaker into their microphone. In which case, what the hell are you doing? Learn how to use a microphone. Anyway, technical issues aside.
So let me tell you what you got for proofs of Ball Earth in your chat. The ISS, where does the sun go at night? It's hysterical, Nathan. It is hysterical.
In my chat, I don't see that. Do you mean in my comment section? Because that's not what I see in my comment section.
No. When you do your re-up, like yesterday's show, that's what you.
On the second channel. Subscribe today to my
Yes.
second channel, Nathan Oakley channel, for the Uncut and After show. So if you're a member, you get it straight away. But if you're not a member, you get it 2 or 3 days later on my second channel. If you're watching this as a member of the public, you are watching this on the second channel. Therefore, this is redundant.
Oh, I thought that was a new intro. I was like, all right, cool.
No, it's a completely pointless shout out because this will only ever reach, unless this ends up being a particularly good show, and then there's a chance it might get re-upped on the main channel. Not that they're bad shows on the second channel, but what I mean is if I run out of material, like yesterday was my wife's birthday, so I re-upped the show with Zanuck. Obviously, I'm just going to pick whichever's the best one. So there's a chance this will make it to the Nathan Oakley channel to direct people in this particular section to my second channel, but highly unlikely, statistically far less likely, and basically a redundant shout out that I shouldn't have done.
Well, in the chance that she listens, a happy belated birthday, Mrs. Oakley.
I'll pass it on.
Oh man, I came back too late. The show's about to start. All the wild things I heard as I was pummeling people with the Black Swan this weekend. Still such a good argument, man. Still such a good argument.